For over 700 years, people ate bread every single day. Without diabetes, without obesity, without ultra-processed flour. What if I told you the way medieval stone mills made flour is something the modern flour industry doesn't want you to question? Medieval stone milling was a slow, deliberate process built around respect for the grain rather than speed or profit. Long before electricity or factory machines, communities relied on massive circular stones, often carved from granite or basalt, that worked together to crush whole grains into flour. One stone remained fixed at the bottom while the upper stone rotated. Powered by human hands, animals, wind, or flowing water, the grain was fed gradually through a central hole, allowing it to be ground evenly instead of violently shredded. This slow rotation was critical because it prevented excessive heat buildup, something modern milling completely ignores. Heat is the silent destroyer of nutrition. Medieval millers understood this through experience, even if they didn't know the science behind it. When grain overheats, its natural oils oxidize and its nutrients degrade. Stone milling kept temperatures low, preserving enzymes, vitamins, and the natural structure of the wheat. The result was flour that smelled alive, tasted richer, and behaved differently in dough. Bread made from stone ground flour fermented better, digested slower, and kept people full longer. This wasn't accidental, it was the outcome of a system refined over centuries. Another key difference was completeness. Medieval stone mills ground the entire grain in one pass. Bran, germ, and endosperm stayed together. Nothing was stripped out, bleached, or chemically altered. What came from the mill was exactly what came from the field. The flour was slightly coarse, varied in texture, and never uniform, but it was real. Every sack reflected the season, the soil, and the type of grain used. There was no attempt to standardize or improve. If for mass production, water-powered mills in particular represented advanced engineering for their time. Carefully designed gears transferred the steady force of rivers into controlled stone movement. Millers adjusted the gap between stones with precision, knowing that too much pressure would burn the grain and too little would leave it unground. Milling was a skilled trade, not a button press. The miller's knowledge directly affected the health of the community. Most importantly, medieval stone milling treated flour as a fresh food, not a shelf-stable commodity. Grain was milled close to consumption, often weekly or even daily. Flour wasn't meant to sit in warehouses for months. It was meant to nourish, sustain, and support hard physical lives. That philosophy, freshness over longevity, is what modern milling abandoned. And that's where the real story begins. Medieval flour retained its nutrients because the milling process respected the natural structure of the grain instead of dismantling it for convenience. When wheat was stone ground, the grain was crushed gently, allowing all its components to remain intact. The bran, germ, and endosperm were reduced together into flour, preserving the balanced nature intended. This mattered because most of wheat's nutrition lives in the parts modern milling removes first. Fiber, B vitamins, iron, zinc, magnesium, and essential fatty acids were all naturally present in medieval flour, not added back later as synthetic enrichments. Modern industrial milling follows a very different philosophy. Steel roller mills pulverize grain at extremely high speeds, generating heat and friction that damage sensitive nutrients. After grinding, the bran and germ are deliberately separated and discarded because their natural oils shorten shelf life. What remains is mostly starch, white, uniform, and easy to store, but nutritionally hollow. To make it marketable, manufacturers then enrich the flour by spraying in a limited selection of artificial vitamins. This creates the illusion of nutrition while ignoring the dozens of compounds that can be replaced once destroyed. Stone ground medieval flour also behaved differently inside the body. Because the grain structure remained more intact, digestion happened slowly. Blood sugar rose gradually instead of spiking, providing sustained energy rather than sudden crashes. People working long hours in fields or workshops depended on this steady fuel. Modern refined flour, stripped of fiber and natural fats, digests rapidly and floods the bloodstream with glucose. Over time, This repeated spike and crash cycle places stress on metabolism, something medieval diets naturally avoided without knowing the term. Glycemic index. Another overlooked factor is freshness. Nutrients, especially in the wheat germ, degrade over time when exposed to air and light. Medieval flour was consumed quickly, often within days of milling. Modern flour is designed to survive months of storage and transportation, long after its natural vitality is gone. Shelf stability replaced nourishment as the primary goal. The truth is uncomfortable for the modern flour industry. Nutrient loss is not an accident or an unavoidable side effect, it is a calculated trade-off. Medieval flour nourished people because it was whole, fresh, and minimally processed. Modern flour lasts longer and looks cleaner, but it does so by sacrificing the very elements that once made bread a true source of strength and sustenance. In medieval times, grain was never broken into good and bad parts. The bran, germ, and endosperm were understood through daily experience to work together as a complete food. When stone mills crushed wheat, all three components stayed in the flour, and this natural balance shaped how people felt after eating. The bran provided bulk and fiber, keeping digestion slow and steady. The germ delivered healthy fats, vitamin E, and B vitamins that supported energy and physical endurance. The endosperm supplied carbohydrates for fuel, but it was never consumed alone. Together, they formed a food that sustained people for long, physically demanding days. Modern milling reversed this logic entirely. Bran and germ are now treated as problems rather than assets. Bran is removed because it affects texture and color, making flour less white and less uniform. Germ is removed because its natural oils can go rancid, shortening shelf life. What remains is mostly the endosperm refined starch that lacks the natural breaks that slow digestion. This separation may make flour easier to process and store, but it fundamentally changes how the body responds to it. The absence of bran has serious consequences. Without fiber, refined flour moves quickly through the digestive system, causing rapid spikes in blood sugar and insulin. Medieval flour, rich in natural fiber, slowed this process, helping people feel full longer and reducing cravings. This wasn't about dieting or health trends, it was about survival. Stable energy meant fewer meals were needed, and hunger didn't constantly interrupt work. The removal of the germ is even more damaging. Wheat germ contains essential fatty acids and micronutrients that support brain function, hormone balance, and cellular repair. These compounds are delicate and easily destroyed by heat and exposure to air, which is why modern mills eliminate them entirely. Once gone, they cannot be truly replaced. Enriched flour may add back iron or folic acid, but it cannot restore the complex synergy of natural nutrients found in the germ. By separating what nature designed to stay whole, modern flour becomes a fragmented food. Medieval stone ground flour, with bran, germ, and endosperm intact, fed the body as a system, not just as a calorie source. That hidden balance is what the modern world lost when efficiency replaced nourishment. The modern flour industry is built around one overriding goal: shelf life. Every major decision in industrial milling, from how grain is crushed to what is removed afterward, is designed to make flour last as long as possible on store shelves and in warehouses. This priority did not exist in medieval times. Flour was treated as a living food, meant to be consumed fresh. Once modern supply chains expanded and global distribution became the norm, freshness became a liability and longevity became a requirement. Natural flour does not want to last for months. The oils in the wheat germ oxidize, the enzymes slowly break down, and the flavor changes. Medieval communities accepted this because food was local and consumption was immediate. Modern corporations cannot to ship flour across continents and store it for extended periods. The most perishable parts of the grain, bran, and germ must be removed. What remains is a stable, predictable powder that resists spoilage but offers little beyond calories. This is where human health becomes secondary. Fiber slows digestion, natural fats support metabolic balance, and enzymes assist the body in breaking food down efficiently. All of these interfere with shelf life. Fiber attracts moisture, oils turn rancid, and enzymes make flour unstable. From an industrial perspective, these are flaws. From a biological perspective, they are essential. Modern flour is engineered to behave well in packaging, not in the human body. Chemical treatments and bleaching further reveal this imbalance. Flour is often whitened to meet consumer expectations of purity and consistency. Aging agents are added to improve baking performance after nutrients have already been stripped away. None of this is done to make bread healthier. It is done to make flour uniform, visually appealing, and profitable at scale. Health claims are handled later through marketing and enrichment labels. The real cost of this trade-off appears over time. Diets dominated by refined flour are linked to unstable blood sugar, reduced satiety, and chronic digestive issues. Medieval diets, heavy in whole stone ground grains, did not face these problems at the same scale. Despite harder physical lives, their flour supported energy and fullness, not constant hunger. The uncomfortable truth is that modern flour is optimized for business efficiency, not biological compatibility. Shelf life generates profit. Health does not show immediate returns. Medieval stone milling placed nourishment first because there was no separation between food and survival. Once that connection was broken, flour stopped being a foundation of health and became a long-lasting industrial product instead. Returning to stone-ground flour is not about nostalgia or romanticizing the past. It is about restoring a relationship with food that modern systems deliberately disrupted. When people reintroduce traditionally milled flour into their diets, the first change they often notice is how different their bodies respond. Digestion slows, fullness lasts longer, and energy feels steadier rather than sharp and fleeting. This happens because stone-ground flour restores what refined flour removed: fiber, natural fats, enzymes, and the full structure of the grain working together again. Taste is another immediate shift. Stone-ground flour carries the flavor of the grain itself, nutty, earthy, and complex. Bread made from it does not rely on sugar or additives to taste satisfying. Medieval people valued this richness because it made simple foods nourishing and enjoyable. Modern palates, conditioned to bland white flour, often rediscover what real wheat is supposed to taste like when switching back. Health changes follow slowly but meaningfully. Whole stone-ground flour produces a gentler blood sugar response, reducing spikes and crashes that drive constant hunger. This supports metabolic balance and can play a role in lowering the risk of diet-related conditions. While medieval people did not speak in medical terms, their daily experience proved that food which digests slowly sustains the body better. Hard labor demanded it, and stone-ground grains delivered. The resurgence of small mills, artisan bakeries, and home grain grinding is a quiet rebellion against industrial food logic. These producers accept shorter shelf life in exchange for real nutrition. Flour is milled in small batches, often locally, and sold fresh. This mirrors medieval practice more closely than anything found in modern supermarkets. It also restores trust. People know where their grain comes from and what has been done to it. Perhaps the most important change is psychological. Choosing stone-ground flour shifts food from convenience to intention. Bread becomes something you respect again, not an empty filler. Medieval societies understood that grain was life itself. Entire communities depended on its quality. When modern people return to stone-ground flour, they are not rejecting progress, they are correcting a mistake. The industry may not promote this return because it threatens efficiency and profit. But history makes one thing clear. When flour is treated as nourishment instead of a commodity, everything changes from how we eat to how we feel every single day. If you like uncovering truths the modern food industry doesn't talk about, make sure you subscribe. This channel explores the forgotten knowledge that shaped human health for centuries.